Good morning, everyone. This is Rama on Riding, coming to you live from a beautiful, soon-to-be sunny Kailua Kona, Hawaii. Our summer is drawing to an end. I'll be back in Arizona in a couple of weeks, and we'll be moving into the second part of our retreat schedule within days of me returning. We have a very large retreat in Sedona on the 27th, and I know some of you will be there. So we'll be getting second books, third books written at that retreat, and a lot of new authors writing their first book. Today our topic is assessing our author's platform. And I chose that title instead of the title that is maybe more appropriate but maybe less intriguing, is assessing who we know and what we got going. And I think that, they go hand in hand. They're slightly different, but I think that is what we want to talk about today, kind of putting everything together that we've spoken about for, the last year, the last couple of years, essentially, is, getting that platform in place, understanding what it is we're doing, and, of course, then developing a game plan for developing it. So I'm going to call on people randomly. I like to pick on Tom here a little bit, since I've known him for a long time. So Tom Pitts, tell us what is an author platform?
Isaiah.
Uh-oh, he's eating breakfast.
The image, I like to think of it as a little bit of a movie star type image. And I think for authors, it's got to be a little more personal than the big movie stars, or maybe rock star, but something public, something very public, part of ourselves. And a little bit of our crusade should go in there. How we want the world to be, our world view, how we think things are. Really, probably how our friends see us. That's what I'm going to do. Is ask people who know me best, and I'm going to put you on the spot for that. How do you see me? What do I look like to you? And I think that's the way to go, because you don't have to force it. You don't have to make anything up. Because when we start, for lack of a better word, bullshitting, everybody knows it. So I think the author platform is how we see the world and how we'd like it to be. I'm going to put that down. That's where I'm going from. It'll change, but.
Thank you, Tom. You really did a good job in getting us started here. It is important to share who we are with the world, and I think that's what Tom was really getting at, is like, hey, I have to share something, and I want it to be real. I don't want to make it up, and I think that's very appropriate, Tom. Thank you. Let's go to Anaria. I know that she's a great talker, so let's Anaria. Tell us what an author platform is.
Ooh, to me, it's exposing myself, coming out of the cosmic closet, in my case, where I've stayed hidden, and knowing that it's time to bring this out. And by bringing it out on this magnitude, that this in itself will keep me safe and protected with the information I'm bringing through. Because it's mostly, for me, it's being able to present myself in a way that to bring new information in that is going to push a lot of buttons, but that's the point of it also, to awaken people, to bring them onto their path even more so, and give them tools to do it along the way.
Sounds good, Anaria. I definitely think that you've got a handle on what direction you're going to be moving with your author platform as we get your book done and all. So thanks for sharing that. Let me keep on moving on a little bit. We've got a lot of smart minds here, and many of you have some good ideas. Jean, tell us what an author platform is to you.
I have to admit, I'm learning, so I'm trying to learn. I was thinking that an author platform was something either on Facebook or describe the book.
I'm
here to learn.
You know, I think that you got into the direction that I was looking to go, because it's more than a what, it's a how in approach, and I think you started to go in that direction right away, so I appreciate that. Because part of the author platform is relating to how do we feel comfortable getting that image of ourselves out there. And to bring in social media right from the start is definitely a component that I wanted to address. So you must have been reading my mind on that one. Thank you.
No, I have to admit, that's all I know.
Well, that's fine, because I think that this is something that a lot of people don't get. Okay. When I was speaking to Mitch, many of you didn't get the opportunity to meet Mitch. Mitch was going to be our social media person for the authors, and as I spoke with him and he was talking about what his plans were, he was talking all about selling books. Okay, and selling books is really definitely something we all want to do, but ultimately we're really selling an image of ourselves. And I think that that's what Tom Pitts was talking about. And I think that social media and marketing people sometimes miss the point. Now, branding people, on the other hand, are really right there, because that's what they're doing, is they're branding an identity. And I did take a look at a mock-up of Tom's new website. It was very pretty. I liked the look of it. And I'm looking at the banners that are changing across the top. And I saw to me, it was so obvious. Tom Bird, yes, he's an author. Yes, he's a great public speaker. Yes, he's an Amazon best-selling author. But ultimately, he makes his living as being one of the best writing coaches in the world, okay? And I was looking for it, okay? I saw the description of him. I saw, some description of the retreat on that banner, but I didn't see a way that someone cold to Tom Bird would know that he's a great writing coach. And to me, whoever prepared that totally missed the whole point of what his platform is and really how he makes his money. And so, I was like, there's something that gets disconnected. That's why you'll hear me say when you're working with web people, social media people, you need to know enough to direct them, because they really don't know what the heck they're doing. They really don't. They may know technically how to get your information up on a Facebook or on a web page, but they're not, they don't know as much as we give them credit to know. And so that's why Tom has designed this whole program to be an educational process. So yes, we'll teach you. We're not saying that ultimately we expect you to do all this stuff on your own, but we want you to know enough that you could direct a professional person, a specific a technician on what to do. Otherwise, we rely on them doing something that they think is what we want. And I think, I found that it's just not right. Now, I'm going to, go outside the box again with my friend here, me. I love your me there on your name. So tell us, what is an author platform to you? That's a share out there. Okay.
We've been in the chat. We've been discussing this. There's a squealing noise, a squealing sound. It's very distracting going on.
Now it's not. Let me mute myself and see. Tell me if it's still going on after I mute myself.
Rama, it's the birds in your background, hon. Birds.
I can't control them. It sounds like crickets here that might be making the noise, Ashira. So we'll have to grin and bear it today. I can't control them, and I can't really get rid of the sound anyway that I know of.
Okay. All right. So what was your question again?
To you, what is an author's platform?
Well, I mean, last week you were asking something that I'd thought about before. This week, if I think about that, first of all, I can't stand the internet, basically, so I can't imagine that people are going to want to hear what I have to say, but I guess I'll just tell you anyway. Somebody's saying that it might be your ceiling fan, by the way. I don't know.
I'll turn the fan off, but I don't think it's making any noise.
Yeah, Rama.
Yes.
Rama, if you could turn your mic down about 30%, because you're like 50% louder than everyone else when they come on. So just turn your mic down a little bit, and that would at least minimize it some.
Okay, I've turned my mic down. Is that coming across better now? Down even more?
I think it's better, but I'm not sure. I don't hear it right now.
Yeah, they come and go a little bit. Okay, I've got my mic down at 50%. Is that better, Tom?
I think you're on automatic. You're just still as loud as you were before. Or you could just mute yourself while someone else is talking, if nothing else, because it's really, really bad.
But the squeal, the high pitch of the squeal has gone way down, Rama.
There you go.
It's dropped a lot.
Okay, sounds good. Now, am I coming? Can you hear me still?
Very well.
Okay.
Very well.
Okay, so I'm sorry, Shiro. The reason I asked you is because I know you hate the internet and all. And
I wasn't done.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was just gonna say, like, I don't know how relevant my answer is necessarily for a lot of people, and it is ironic that we're discussing it in this way and this format, and I recognize that. But so the way that I feel is that if you want to do things in real life with real people nowadays, it's kind of like you have to go underground, because you're supposed to be a cyborg basically, and everybody else is kind of a cyborg, which is meaning like that we're all part computer or something, or robot, and So I'm always looking for ways that I can do things differently. So I'm actually going to show you. You've seen them, Rama, but not this way. And I'm going to show you some of what I do. So this is my obsession. And sometimes I write things that are very short, and I've discovered that they can fit on small things, or at least excerpts of them can. Sometimes the entire thing can fit on like a card. So here's some artwork on a card, and this is from a song, you know. And I don't know how many of these I have, definitely several dozen different designs at least. And then I have all these different, because they're on cards, there are so many ways that I can find to display them. So I have this, like tiny little notebook, and then, or small notebook anyway. And then I have like these kind of things that are for business cards. I put my poems in them, And then what I do with that is I find any way that I can to get these out into the world. So like I've sponsored a poetry contest where I send out 100, to 100 different people around the world, a pack like that, which would have maybe 5 different things in it. And then I take something like this. I'll go to an open mic. I hand them out, and I just show people what I have. So I try to actually get in front of real people as much as possible. Whenever I go anywhere, I do that. If I go to open mics, I read. I'm often the only person reading anything where other people are singing, But I just try to get a lot of experience. I try to, memorize my stuff. I've taken voice lessons also so that I can project and not need a microphone. And, I can literally get my message across, in that way. I'm not saying that this is ideal in terms of it's not the end all and be all. It's just the beginning, but it is something that's real and it's tangible, and that, if I give someone something like this, sometimes they're immediately my fan or whatever on the book of fakery. That's my latest name for it. It has some consequences like that in the world. So that's what I try to do. Oh, and and my shirt has my website on it and my artwork.
Thank you, Ashira, because what Ashira contributed is that our platform extends past the internet to real life. Okay, one of the things that I did as a result of my book coming out was that I became president of one of the bike clubs. If I never had written that book, I probably wouldn't have bothered and wasted my time to do that. So there are opportunities in real life that we don't want to ignore. And some of us will choose to do that more often than others. And, Ashira has pointed out that that's her preference. And what I really wanted to go to is exactly what Ashira was starting to allude to here. Okay, one of the things that I find really important here is that we need to take an assessment of our skill set and our likes and dislikes. If we were totally reliant on Facebook, for example, and we hated to do Facebook, well then, we wouldn't be as productive or successful as we could be. So one of the things that I've noticed is that as you learn about social media, you tend to gravitate towards, a social media type, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram. There's so many different ones. And what I've noticed generally as I talk to people is that, they gravitate towards one. And I talked to a gal I can't remember who it was this week that was saying that she just started doing Twitter and she loves it. If I had spoken to her a month ago, she would have basically said, "Well, what's Twitter? I don't want to do it." Kind of approach. So we do need to take an assessment of what it is that we like doing, in addition to what it is that we're good at. Some of us are great public speakers. Well, let's look at how to incorporate that into our platform. Some of us are performers, so let's incorporate that. Some of us are hermits and don't want to really face people in the real world. So what can we do to attract attention or to get a movement behind us? Well, we can perhaps use social media. Maybe we'll use a different name. Now, another component. Well, let me ask one more person and see if I get the answer I'm looking for. Tom Carroll, what is an author's platform to you?
Well, I was hanging back from the camera, so I thought I could be anonymous this morning.
Forget it.
Yeah, what I'm doing with my book, doing with my blogs. Let's start with the books. I've ordered probably 250 of them, and I keep them with me. I give them away as conversation starters. And given the topic of the book, the conversation can go a lot of different directions. So I use them to meet people, to offer a chance to speak into their life. I've never been shy about sticking my nose into other people's business. On the side of, as far as blogging, anyone who's read any of my blogs sees they're going a lot of different directions. And there, I'm looking to develop my author skills, which are in some areas really lacking. I want to simply entertain people. I want to entertain them, though, in a thoughtful way, and start conversations, open up new ways of thinking about current events or old ideas. So I guess that's it. The book has one function. The blogs seem to have another. But I'm struggling to write the next book. Will be the intention is to actually start a movement. It's called the 10 Project, and it involves people in a mass consciousness experiment. So I'm going 3 different directions, you could say, but they're all really about engaging directly with people. I'm not as shy as, I wouldn't say shy. I actually, Ashira, I really respect what you were saying about moving away from the electronic media, which is actually one remove from genuine contact between people. So I really respect that. And you might say that I fall somewhere in the middle. I believe that this whole business of writing, though, is about communication, and that is ultimately going to be between real people. So if I were ever a famous author, a best-selling author, then of course many people would read what I've written and not actually be able to contact directly. At this point, maybe I'm enjoying exactly what I want, in that I'm finding conversations opened with individuals, and I enjoy that very much.
Thank you, Tom. Tom did bring in a couple of additional components, in that, yes, there's giving our book away to stimulate conversation. It's blogging about things that might be other than our book. What he's really talking about is sharing other interests and kind of demystifying ourselves. we're not only the topic of her book. So that's a important component. And I think, again, what we saw was a little bit of a balance between real world contact and, internet contact, for lack of a better term. And I think that all those are components of our our platform. Now, Darnita, you've unmuted yourself. Did you have something to say, or should I mute you back up?
No, I found something, and it's a little old-fashioned. I mean, it's getting back to what Tom talks about, and just actually talking to people face-to-face. What I found out is they're surprised that you write books, and it almost gives you he was talking about Rockstar, and talking to people one-on-one. I know you can't get out there as much as you would if you were on social media. Of course, that has to be the first component, I guess. But I've also started talking to private bookstore owners. I just go through Google and start looking, see who's the privately owned bookstore owners. And I found that when I talk to them one-on-one or face-to-face, that they're interested, and they're surprised that someone that's never wrote a book, that you've written a book. But I found that's an interesting way.
Thank you, thank you, Darnita. What Darnita did is she brought the sales channel into the platform, and I think that that's a critical component of where we're all going. Is that yes, we do want to sell our books, and in doing so, we're really selling ourselves. Darnita mentioned, well, I talked to the bookstore owners. So essentially, she's making that contact that she's assertive enough to actually talk to a bookstore owner, number one, which is, a great thing to be able to do. And number two, she put it on the line, and, it's like, well, she's got a book and she's got some connections now. So if you remember, I mentioned my underground title is Who You Know and What You Got Going. Okay, so one of the components that I think that can benefit us all is to take a look at who we know in this process. Now, if I take myself as an example, I've been in the mountain biking industry for 25 years. I know a lot of people. Okay, and so one of the things that I did is I looked at, well, who do I know that's still in the, in the running magazines, mountain biking magazines, and I contacted them from the start to see if I could get, a little play through them. That didn't really pan out, and my success in mountain bike magazines kind of came through the back door instead of through the front door. Okay, but it was taking a look at who we know, taking a look at what associations we may be part of, which does include college alumni publications and people along those lines. Could be a job-related association. Could be, associations related to our genre. One of the bigger writing associations might be the Romance Writers Association or something like that. So taking a look at large groups that we may have a foot in the door with is part of our assessment of who we know, which is part of our author platform. Now, we've talked about a little bit about social media. So one of the things that we would want to look at is which social media do we have going, and which social medias do we feel comfortable with using? Okay, not to say that if we're not comfortable using Twitter that we don't set up a Twitter account, but we may not work the account. But getting set up is probably a beneficial thing, even if we're, just a Pinterest person. So assessing what our actual skill set is quite critical here. Are we one-on-one connectors with individuals? Are we public speakers? Are we willing to get up in front of a big group and share who we are? Do we feel comfortable with doing that? Do we know any organization that we could plug in with that, from a church organization to a sports organization to a writing organization? There are a lot of things out there that we could theoretically plug into. One of the great things of our time is something called meetups. And I don't know if any of you have checked those out, but there are basically the meetup organization has these small little, kind of pseudo clubs that they set up on a topic. And in virtually in all areas around America, and probably worldwide, there are these meetups on topics, whether it's riding meetups or outdoor activities or movie clubs or, garden societies. These are available to us. We may need to do a little bit of research, and we may need to plug in prior to trying to get something from the organization, so to speak. A lot of times it's good to connect, and as we've talked about social media, we do need to become a network person prior to asking for a favor, and that favor would be purchasing a book. Letting us speak in front of your organization is also like that. So one of the tricks is that by doing our research, we know who we're talking to, if we're talking to in an organization or association. So we want to kind of throw back at them the knowledge that we have about them and their organization. That shows that we did research, and we're not kind of just going in and expecting something for nothing, okay? So one of the ways to get on their side is to basically reiterate, oh, I read that article you wrote a couple of weeks about, a topic that I want to speak about or can continue with. Okay, so it shows that we have done our research, that we understand, and we want to be complimentary to them for moving in that kind of direction. So it does take some legwork, as well as who you know, how do you know them, and can you leverage the how to get on their good side and get a favor from them. And when I say favor, that may not be the right word, but essentially what I'm alluding to is that, can we market our book through them? Can we market ourselves through them? Okay, so we've talked about social media a little bit. We've talked about real life, getting in front of people and sharing who we are. We've talked about public speaking a little bit. We've mentioned a little bit about blogging here, getting the word out. So what is it that our vision is? Okay, so if we go back to the beta group concept that Tom has brought on, now that we've kind of assessed some of our skills, let's assess the vision. Let's create that vision. What is it that we do want to share? And how do we want to share it? Sure, we want to get in front of everyone. We want to sell them books. Okay, I get that. How do we go about doing that? So the platform extends beyond the what to the how. Okay, we all have a different skill set. Most times we like to ignore our skill set because now we're authors, and authors only like to write books, so we kind of drop some of those, strong points that we've developed over the past. And we think that they can't serve us in this new endeavor we're working now. And I think that that is real erroneous. I found myself doing that a lot, that, oh gosh, I was a businessman. I was a productivity consultant for years. I learned a heck of a lot of skills. And a lot of times I want to, throw that part of my life away. I mean, ignore it or move beyond that, as opposed to taking a look at, well, what skills did I really hone while I was doing that? How can I apply those skills to my book, to promoting myself now? Okay, now one of the things that we tend to ignore in our platform is some of our outside interests. We tend to focus, okay, I wrote a book about mountain biking. I should only be talking about mountain biking while I'm trying to get myself out there. And I think that that, again, is one of the errors that we can make, because ultimately, when we're selling our books, we're really selling who we are. And if I wrote a book about mountain biking, that's no reason why I can't share my interest in coffee, especially Kona coffee, with people, okay? And if I do a good job with that, I gain them as a confidant. And then when I tell them, oh, I wrote a book about mountain biking, I might be able to get a sale because they liked my views on coffee. Well, I'm willing to learn about mountain biking. What does Rama have to say about mountain biking? So sometimes we want to take a look at some of our side activities. What comes to mind right off the bat is Tom Pitts loves to garden. And so he could share some of his knowledge about gardening to gain further traction in front of an audience. And one way that we could do that is we could put our top 10 list together. One of the things that seems to go big on the internet is the top 10 tips on how to garden starting with nothing, or the top 10 mountain biking skills, or the top 10 principles of Tai Chi, or the top, what are the best coffees in the world, okay? So what we do is we're opening up a discussion with a different audience, okay? So we're expanding our reach by sharing some of our interests that are slightly different than our book per se. So that's one of the things that I think we all miss out on, is that we get very focused on our book. If we are writing a very spiritual book, we want to come across as being a very spiritual person, and all that's fine and good, but it does limit ourselves. So who else are we? What else do we have to share? What other information could people benefit from that we know that they don't know? And looking at doing that to expand our audience is a great addition to this process. So one of those things that we can all start to think about is those top 10 lists. And we can certainly do this specifically to our book, and we can do it specifically to some of our outside activities. If we think about Anaria, she's writing a book on the crystal skulls. Well, she could put a top 10 favorite things the crystal skulls have told her. Sure, it might be in her book, but by putting a top 10 list out there and collecting an email address for that top 10 list, she would now have somebody to market the book to, or a list of people to market the book to. Okay? Sometimes people are even though it's only a $12.95 book or a $15.95 book or a $5.99 ebook, it still is a commitment from a purchaser. And although it is a very small commitment, sometimes we need to coax people to buy, okay? And one way is to do that top 10 list, from our topic. Many authors will opt to provide a free chapter of their book to get the email list. Okay, it's a step, it's not the only step that we can use, is the point that I wanted to make, is that, well, we're all creative individuals, as represented by the fact that we even bothered to write a book. So we have a lot of skills, and one of the things that we neglect is to put the platform vision together. We neglect to look at where we're going with this, because we're all focused on, I'm just writing a book. And we get focused on that. We don't necessarily think about what we can do to promote that book. And that's what your author platform really represents, is how do you promote your book? How do you promote yourself? I spoke with two authors, I think it was the week before last. I don't think I spoke to them last week. I think it was the week before. Two brand new authors. And as I speak with them, they share who they are with me. In addition to telling me something about their book, they're, talking about, well, I'm, one guy was a real live Cajun. Okay. And we talked about that the Cajun, ancestry is really different than many of us think about. He mentioned that his mother only spoke French. He spoke French and English. But I started to think, well, heck, I don't know what a real Cajun is. That is a wonderful place to start with a platform. He can share who a Cajun is, because it's a dying breed, essentially. So I thought that, well, that is really a great component. Now, I had another author that I spoke with who is he's actually written two books about a mystery. Some gal in his hometown who happened to be a hooker disappeared, okay, or got killed or something like that. I don't know the full details. Well, it's one of those unsolved mysteries. And what this guy does is every weekend he goes and follows clues to try to solve this mystery. And I thought, oh my gosh, wouldn't that be a great blog to hear every week what he did to solve this mystery? It'd be like a TV show, it'd be like that True Detective show that was so popular in its first season. And so, I start thinking about those components when I initially have contact with an author, is where can they go to leverage the marketing of who they are? So it takes us back to the initial vision that Tom is working with a lot of you in those beta groups, is to create that vision, the long game vision of where we're going in this process. There were some articles coming out this week, especially relating to who Amy Dean is. It was kind of the image of kind of techie people, okay, and how that the image that we have is really not who the techie people are and what they look like. And it was like, when I read that article, I thought about you, Amy. It's like, oh my gosh, this is exactly, something that's pertinent to who you are, the lady engineer kind of person. Okay, so we can build our brand component into our platform as well. And if we don't understand who we are as a branding component, we probably need to take a step back and say, okay, where am I going? Who am I? what skills do I have? What skills am I willing to use? And how am I going to do all of this? And this is a great exercise to do. I mean, it's not just something to think about. It's perhaps something that we can go back to one of our favorite devices, the circle diagram, and take a look at how we go about doing this. Now, one of the things that we may miss in this process of putting all our ducks in order, so to speak, is in our website, we tend to initially focus on our book, about the author, as opposed to what direction do we want to take in this presentation of who we are. So taking a look past the author is really what the platform entails, looking at beyond the obvious. And that's a component that we're all kind of addressing. Now, I think I had a question. Cindy, I'm going to unmute you. What's your question?
One thing you reminded me of, and I've been giving a lot of thinking since we were on the webinar with Tom, is not only how am I going to promote myself, but how can I help promote other authors? And one thing that I thought that I'm going to try to do is on my website make an area for upcoming authors or people who are having books come out, a little bit about them and how to find them, promote them in addition to myself.
That is a great component. You're not the first author to have come to that conclusion that we really, in this process, we want to help each other as well, because these are our connections. These are our people that are helping us. We want to give something back, and it is true that with numbers we have a bigger reach. Okay, so if Cindy starts tweeting about Cheryl's upcoming book, and Cheryl tweets about Cindy's upcoming book, they attract a different audience. We don't all know the same people, and we can grow our reach through this. This is a great idea, a great concept. We're going to do an experiment with exactly this approach with Mary Stevenson, with Mary Stevenson's book launch in a couple of weeks. We're going to share a little bit of our time to see if we can help her reach her #1 spot on Amazon a little quicker. And at the same time, we're going to have, we're going to get our name out there. And one of the things that I haven't mentioned that I just have to mention at this point is that part of our author platform relates to hashtags and keywords. Okay, this is again the how behind what it is that we ultimately want to do. So keywords, remember, are generally two components, one as a branding component, the other as a more generalized component, okay? So if we can understand where we are going, the directions, who we know, then we can have a better handle on many of those general type of hashtags that we might want to employ in the marketing of ourselves or our book. Our branding one might be a little bit clearer for some of us, not for all of us. I figure that I have 3 obvious branding components: mountain biking, Hawaii, and Rama on riding. Okay, so I'm fairly clear on at least 3 of the branding components of myself, although that really just touches the tip of the iceberg. There are a lot of other things that I get myself involved with that are classic for gaining like influence with a group of people. We all have lots of interests beyond the topic of our book, and in most cases we prefer to ignore that direction, and I think that by doing so we limit an audience. And I think that actually, you know, when we write our book, initially I think we ultimately limit our audience with it. You know, and I'm a classic case in point. When I initially wrote that book, the first draft, I was kind of thinking, well, you know, this is for the people that, you know, kind of been to Sedona to ride mountain bikes. And of course, if I had been smart, I would have had a huge list of 100,000 people that I'd ridden with over the past 20, 25 years. And that would have been a good starting point. But as I've seen the book go, I've realized that, oh my gosh, you know, a lot of people are reading this book that have never mountain biked. Maybe they've wanted to do it, they thought about it, they were interested in it. Many will never ride a mountain bike, but they want to kind of live vicariously through my words. So I think in some cases, we can do ourselves a disservice by pinpointing our target a little too tight and not realizing that we can market to a much larger group. And of course, as we write that book, occasionally we have to expand our vision beyond that small market, so that if somebody that has no idea about the topic read our book, they get it. Okay, so we may have to define terms that seem very obvious to ourselves in this process. So expanding that vision beyond the obvious really is part of our author platform. So if we were to go back to our circle diagram and put, you know, marketing our book or marketing ourselves in the center of that circle diagram, we would then start to write the little legs of the circle diagram. Okay, social media could be one of those circles. And then coming off of that, we could list, 5, 6, 8 different social medias, and then we could highlight, okay, well, I really dig using Instagram, so I'm going to focus my energy on Instagram. And then we're going to add Goodreads to it, because Rama said Goodreads is a book social media, and we're all book people, so we better have a presence there, okay? So we can start to identify the areas that we could benefit from the how. Okay, these are now actually concrete steps on how we're going to get ourselves out there. And those components can change over time. You know, at one time, Instagram was just a name to me, and I was on Facebook all the time. Nowadays, I hardly ever go on Facebook, and I just enjoy doing Instagram. It just seems like a much simpler sort of thing. Who knows whether it will pan out at all, but I suspect that building an audience on a different social media is going to ultimately help us get in front of a larger and a different audience. Now, if social media is something that you really don't have any affinity for, now when I say affinity, I'm really not talking about that we're afraid to get involved. I'm just, providing it as a possibility. Well, what else can we do? Ashira mentioned poetry readings, open mics. For herself, that's a great way to get in front of audience. Tom Pitts has joined, comedy troupes and acting troupes as a way of getting in front of a different group. Now, he hasn't thought of it that way. He just does it for fun. And I think Ashira probably does it for fun also. So, we can add fun things into this process as well, okay? And ultimately, that's one of our goals, because if we're looking at the long game, we better, come up with some things that we do that we enjoy. I mean, if Facebook is a tedium, that doesn't mean we aren't going to have a presence, but we're just not going to want to devote a huge amount of time to it. But maybe doing some public speaking. I imagine that Anaria will be doing much public speaking about the crystal skulls because it's such an intriguing topic. And she lives in a community that has lots of opportunity for something like that. In addition to just speaking and introducing them, she has a whole healing modality that comes, right along with that. And, utilizing that as part of the platform is a critical component for what she's doing. Some of us, it's real easy to spot the platform components. Others of us, it's going to take a little bit of sorting through, what is it? What is it that we're going to feel comfortable with as our platform? So, and I would suspect that the novel writers are the ones that are going to have to search a little deeper. Sure, if we're writing, I think Dolores is working on an unsolved mystery novel. Well, there's probably a huge, bunch of websites out there that talk about unsolved mysteries, okay? So we start to define exactly what it is that we're writing about. If we're writing about UFOs and alien type things in our science fiction fantasy, well, there's probably plenty of groups out there that want to talk about what do aliens look like or things along those lines. And so we can engage a conversation on social media or in a forum that way. Dolores.
Hey, Rama. Because of the topic that I'm pursuing, what advice do you give to people who might end up going down a rabbit hole trying to track down, some of these people and some of these sites? Because I've seen some of them and they're pretty dark, really. I don't really want to go there. I know my subject of the book and everything is kind of dark, but I don't handle it that way. So what do you think?
Well, I think that some subtle shifts in terminology might benefit you greatly. What I've noticed is that as you do a Google search, you start out with a term, initially, and you see what turns up. And what I've done in the past is I'll read, a bunch of websites, and I'll start cutting and pasting some terminology back into Google from there. And I'll start to zero in on something that's more to my liking than initially found, okay? Sometimes by using very obvious terms, we don't quite get the target we're looking for. But I suspect that you're not alone. You've just, maybe the people that are into that dark area of unsolved mysteries are doing a better job of keyword use, right? So they come up quicker. Sometimes I'll do a search and, I'll look at the first 2 pages, then I'll click page 7, page 8, page 10, and see what's there to get an idea whether it's going in the right direction or not. A lot of times I will be on through a search, I'll cut and paste from a website that, oh, that's an interesting way of describing it. Let's see where that takes me. So it is a research endeavor that you're on, and it can be a little frustrating, I have to admit, because you just don't seem to quite find what you're looking for in the first attempt or the first several attempts. So really just don't give up. and just, change the words around, be creative. That's the one asset all of us have, is that we are all creative people. And sometimes we don't apply that creativity to simple things like Google searches. So that's the only advice I have for you, Dolores. I think that it's out there, and it may take a little bit of surfing around. Plus, sometimes those dark areas need a little bit of light, and you could provide that light, and you might get a lot of play just because of that, because you come across slightly different than the majority of people. So, it's worth a stab, to see, well, what happens. You might encounter, the scenario that Ashira has identified. Everyone may hate on you by doing that. Well, if that's the case, it's probably best to move on to the next, right? So, there are methods that we can employ to test the waters as to whether this is going to work out for us. I think that most of what we are going to be doing is a lot of trial and error. And, if we're all going to write a book, then we have perseverance. Okay, so a little trial and error along with a lot of perseverance will bring fruitful benefits for us. Tom Pitts, do you have a question? Comment?
Yeah, I want to say that I'm hearing a little bit what I call reverse engineering the platform. I got caught up in, okay, my platform are the keywords and hashtags that are going to get a lot of play. That's my platform. And it was okay for an exercise, but I'm that's not where I can base my platform on, because it doesn't fit, of course. But it's so great to go in there and very seriously build your platform backwards from the hashtags and keywords, in the sense that the way you titled your book, Rama, Sedona Mountain Biking, Rise of the Gnarly Crew. That was reverse engineering the title of your book. And that can get us started in thinking. And the second thing is great ideas. And actually, I know where I can do an open mic poetry over in Prescott. And I'm going there. Thank you very much for that. And what I haven't quite pursued yet, I'm just lining up on it, is book clubs. Actual physical book clubs where they meet and talk about books. I know if it's in 50 to 100 miles, especially in Arizona, I can drive to them. And that's that real world that Facebook and Twitter just doesn't get. And so I'm going after actual book clubs that meet and talk about books, and I'll connect with some on Skype. And the other thing, great encouragement, and I walked into 2 bookstores that took my books, little bookstores, around the corner. And I'm just going to start doing that a lot more. And this, I feel so much better about marketing, because this social marketing was like going to be the be all and catch all, and it's not. There's so much more out there. So this has been a great webinar for me and all the ideas. That's it for me.
Dolores.
I just want to say, Tom Petz, you're my role model, actually, because I contacted a local book club this week and talked to one of the ladies that's a participant and asked her some questions about her book club. I knew a little bit about it, and asked her how they select their books to read. And she said that they circulate who hosts it, and the host gets to pick. So I told her about my book. And she said, well, you know what? She says, I can host the next one in September, since your book is coming out, and we can read your book at the book club. And then you can come and be there when we do the feedback session. And I thought, well, I can even do one better. I can give them an advanced copy of the book, and I can read them something out of the book to get them started. So that's what I've committed to.
Nice. And I've heard from one author several months ago. She went to something like 1,000 books a week. She hit one of the bestseller lists. And anyway, she did it through book clubs. And she said, make your book club ready. And all you have to do is in the back put questions for the book club. And you put right. So I don't know what questions would be. So if you come up with questions that book clubbers ask,
I'll send you my list.
Okay.
You know, I think that is actually a really good topic for another webinar is book clubs and what they are and how we find them and what they
volunteer, Dolores.
Yeah, Dolores, could you send that list to Rama and then Rama send it out to everyone? I'd love to read that.
I'll do that. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Well, this is what I love about the webinar is how, you know, an idea starts to grow and we start to, you know, see some of the additional potential of directions we can take. Tom Carroll, do you have a comment? You unmuted yourself.
Ever since Darnita spoke, Darnita, you said some things about bookstore owners. It caught my attention, but I didn't quite get the thrust of it. Would you mind saying that again?
Hold on, let me unmute. Okay.
Okay, what I found that is interesting, and I've just been hitting mom and pop bookstores, the ones that can actually make the decision with what books they want. And I usually start out by asking them where they buy their books from, if they're buying them from the Ingram catalog. And if that's the case, then that opens up a conversation that I can have with them. You know, well, I've got a book coming out. I would be glad to give you a copy as soon as it gets here. You can read it. If it's something you want to put on your bookshelves, then you can order it from the catalog. And that's something that almost all of the stores that I've gone into have always, they've been very perspective with that.
Now the next step with that kind of thing might be also to try to schedule a presentation night at that bookstore or something along those lines, because getting a real author to talk, you know, I mean, we think perhaps that we don't have that much to contribute because this is our first book, but you know, the people that read books, you know, don't always get to interact with the author of the book. And here's an opportunity where you can actually have interaction with a readership. And a lot of times that those bookstores do offer those sorts of things. Now, there's another component as well as bookstores for something like what Tom Carroll has, which is, you know, a book that might be great for a crystal store or a rock store or a, you know, a yoga center or things like that. And there are many of you that are writing books that would fit into this environment, just like my book fits into bike stores. Okay. Now I haven't gotten my book into bookstores, but I've gotten them into bike stores real easily. So, you know, there are retail outlets that may be effective for our book, but aren't bookstores per se. And just to, you know, clarify one thing, and then I'll unmute you, Anari. Let me just clarify one thing. Darnita mentioned the Ingram catalog. The Ingram catalog is how bookstores order books. And there's been a lot of confusion when I send out the copyright page template for the authors. It says, you know, so-and-so books are available for sale through the Ingram Press catalogs. Well, all of you know that we use Create Space now instead of Ingram, and there's a lot of confusion about the Ingram company at this point. just wanted to clarify that Create Space's extended distribution does get your book listed into the Ingram Press catalog. It takes about 5 or 6 weeks to do this, but it is still something that does occur. And I just wanted to clarify that for everybody. Anaria, do you have a comment?
Oh, well, two things. Well, just to back up a little, another good place to put books is in your local area and anywhere where they are promoting local artists. And it could be even a big gallery. They're always looking for the local artists, so they may feature your book. That's also a good place, possibly for a special book reading, and because people like to come out and have the wine and cheese thing, and so if there's like an open gathering, that's a really great place to do it as well. Now, Rama, on what you were just talking about with Create Space, gets it into, this is who we use, right, is the Create Space?
That is correct.
Okay, and then you said that they get this out to Ingram. How do they get it out to Ingram? It's push it to make sure it gets out to Ingram.
Okay, now what Create Space is, I refer to it as print on demand fulfillment house. Okay, so they actually run the full distribution of your book. It gets onto Amazon via Create Space. I don't do anything with that to get an Amazon listing for you, okay? That's part of their distribution. They distribute that book to Barnes & Nobles. So on the Barnes & Nobles website, your book will be available. Not to say that it will be into the Barnes & Nobles bookstore. If you have a Barnes & Nobles bookstore in your area, the only way you're going to get your book into that store is by making that personal connection with the owner or the buyer, okay? And what you want to do is to remember this. Barnes & Nobles turns up their nose at independent book. It's called indie books, okay? They, for whatever reason, don't seem to have the ability to want to stock self-published books, okay? So on our copyright page, which we instituted, seems like about a year, maybe 2 years ago now, I took the liberty of putting that all our books are published by Sojourn Publishing. So it's one of those gray areas, right, where the Sojourn Publishing isn't really doing anything for you other than having a name on that page, so that for certain places that you market, you can say, oh, I wrote a book, it was published by Sojourn Publishing. Okay, and you might just get your foot in the door as opposed to saying, oh, I'm a self-published author. Okay, so keep that in mind, that sometimes we need to employ gray areas in our presentation. We learn that from our politicians. They're always saying things that are partial truths. Well, we may not like it, but sometimes we have to do it ourselves. Tom Carroll.
Okay, so this whole business about bookstores buying from Lightning Press, Lightning Source, is that it? Or directly? Anyway, however it's done, it's opening up a whole question. How do these bookstores all across the nation make their choices about books? Are there regional book fairs? Where do these bookstores go to see the range of new books? What are we missing here? Where can we go to get in front of the book buyers? Is that question clear enough?
Yes, absolutely. It's a great question. Let me say it this way, right off the bat, Tom. bookstores are closing right and left because they can't address this question. Okay, that is why we've seen bookstores just closing, because what's happened in the book writing industry is that essentially self-publishing rules now. Okay, and the bookstores have not found a way to sort through this huge amount of new books. So it's safer for them from their perspective just to stock the bestsellers, and that's what people find in the Barnes and Nobles type bookstores. Okay, smaller bookstores do have more ability to buy what they want, but in order to get into a bookstore, what I found is it takes that personal connection. Now, the next part of your question relates to book fairs and things like this. One of the things that I've met, and I've mentioned this to Tom on more than one occasion. Tom feels that these kind of events are a waste of our time. He's probably right, although I don't take, I don't believe anything until I try it personally. And, things have changed in the industry, dramatically. So there could be some opportunity for that. One of the things that we could experiment with is in Tucson, Arizona, they have one of the largest book fairs in the country. I think it's in March of the year, every year. And I've often thought that, boy, if we could get a bunch of authors, and I'm talking about 10 or 12 authors together to attend this event, we might be able to, number one, afford a table. I don't know what they cost, but man it with authors so that, we have presentations going on throughout the event where the authors talk about their books. And also, this is something that we could experiment with and see where it goes. Short of that, I don't know the answer to your question, Tom.
Well, listen, you know that I'm down there in March. If you want to keep that up near the front and hot, if I'd be willing to share part of a table and man it, a couple of weekend days if other people are interested in filling in around the edges. So I like that. I'd love to take that farther and see what we could do.
Hey, Rama?
Yes.
Bunch of us have birthdays in March. Maybe we could have a big old birthday bash and do this.
It sounds like it's a worthy proposal. Let's keep it, as Tom says, on the front burner and not on the back burner, because stuff on the back burner usually gets burnt and thrown away. But on the front burner, we might find that we could get together and that this could be a fruitful thing. One of the things that we could do is, we could first start and create our own event in a place like Sedona or Phoenix or something like that, where we all get together and we use our cameras and we put it up on YouTube. And one of the stories I heard about the movie called The Secret was that it was really Jack Canfield and his friends getting together to talk, and someone had the bright idea to bring a camera along. And the next thing you know, they have a feature-length movie going, So I thought about this for about 2 years ago, and I did propose it to Tom. I didn't get anywhere. But I did have some interest among several authors in our region that maybe we should think about something like this as a possibility. So, yeah, these are great ideas and can really benefit us. Joan, you've unmuted yourself. Do you have a comment?
Yeah, I do. Can you hear me, Rama?
Yep, you're coming through loud and clear.
Okay, I just want to say hi to everybody and just for a while because I've been busy with other things. But Rama, this is amazing. I can't believe how all of you have developed and grown. It's just awe-inspiring, and I just want to make sure I come back here. And I've taken away so much from today. And one of the things that you said that is so important is what you identified about Tom, which is has given me, as I'm beginning to redo my Lipstick and Soul website again, is who am I and what am I really doing, which is I'm a psychotherapist, and relationship is what I'm really about, and beauty is the avenue through which I am have become aware that is the way I'm going to promote this. So from listening to God, there's just so much I have to say. Like Sharon, you opened up and talked about using your cards and the stretch of going to an open mic and using it as your platform instead of what everybody else is doing, which is singing. It's like that was so encouraging. It's like, yes, 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 I have to do this. I have to do that. So anyway, I've gotten so much from today. And I don't want to go on about all that, but one of the areas that in terms of selling books that I'm aware of, and let me just back up for a moment. What I'm trying to do, so you know what I'm doing, is I really found that Inner Beauty is my channel for inviting women to open up and explore how to get better relationships. That's taken 2 years where I can actually feel like when I say that to somebody, their eyes light up. Before that, I would talk about whatever else, and I'd have these dead eyes like, oh. So I'm finally on track. I've got so much to do, but in terms of creating my website and content, my goal is to create content that is going to inspire somebody, because my bigger goal, which is the point of what I'm going to, is to end up going to a cosmetic company, a beauty care company, talking to their marketing directors, and finding that I want them to buy my books in bulk. So they will end up putting it in a swag bag, because companies will. So if you think about what everybody here has said about thinking outside the box, and you know, your idea, the guy that goes around and every week and like he's on a mystery tour, I love that. You know, and the person that, you know, is a Cajun, and I thought, oh my God, I haven't even used the fact that I'm kind of mystical and I have this Irish background, and I mean, there's just I'm just so awestruck here. The idea is, if we really think outside the box, they buy in like 10,000, 20, 30,000. Companies will buy your book. And if you approach them with a plan on how you can be a part of how they might use the book. In other words, it's like actively going out and finding your own sponsor. And then back to what you said, Rama, that personal relationship. So people will then get to know you. And it starts by you just keep sending people stuff, I guess. I mean, yet, because I don't feel quite prepared, because I feel that I want to really, like what you said about the book club, really have the questions in order, solid. In the campaign of developing, my goal is to approach Bobby Brown and maybe Dove, because they deal, you know, the company Dove soap, they deal with so much, and they have a whole place for women that are older. And so I'm kind of have this idea in my mind, and I'm working really backwards. But anyway, it's just a thought. So I'm going. I appreciate you all for listening. I appreciate all of you for being there. Some of you I recognize. I would love to get your emails or websites so I can say hi to you guys. But thank you so much. And Rama, thank you for being here and never quitting.
You know, Joan, thank you for sharing. One of the real important things that Joan said, and I know Joan quite well for having worked with her for quite a time, is that things evolve. Okay, You know, a lot of these ideas Joan shared with me several years ago, but they were only bits and pieces of. And as she's gotten more mature in her vision, in her platform, and understanding who she is with, you know, her authoring and how to integrate that with everything else she does, the vision changes over time. And she's tried some things, and you know, they may not have panned out the way she initially thought they would. And instead of giving up, she's just modified things. And the other thing I really want to share from what Joan said, because this is the most critical component, even though she doesn't even know it. She said she's going to change her website. Okay, please, everybody, understand that your websites do need to change periodically. Okay, it is very helpful to give it a facelift, whether it's every 6 months, whether it's every year, whether it's every other year. You know, in addition to our blogs, which are a regular addition to our website, getting a facelift, changing the perspective, changing the, you know, how and what we do is part of this process. And thank you for sharing that. As I say, she didn't even know that that was the important component of what she said. So I wanted to just share that. My standard joke about the Old Mountain Bike Heaven website, and you've probably all heard this before, is that we updated it once a decade, whether it needed to be updated or not. Okay, and that's just not the best approach in this digital age. You know, I used to call it a fast food society, but it's really changed to a fast media society. And I think that that's more appropriate for us, that, oh my gosh, there's so much going on and so many different things that we can do. And it does take some trial and error. It does take changing our vision periodically and growing. So, you know, it's turned out to be a very interesting webinar today. I think that everyone has started to think a little bit. Cheryl, comment.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on regarding the book clubs and getting your book club ready. I was in Barnes & Noble last week, and I noticed that there are a lot of books that are book club ready that have, you know, the questions in the back. So maybe this is something we should look at. That's all. I just wanted to add that.
You know, as I say, I think that this is a good topic for us to devote a whole webinar to tell you the truth. And, you know, if you can't find book clubs in your area, check out Meetup. Go to Meetup, I think it's meetup.com. And you may find that there's a group going on that is being done by your neighbor or something like that, that you would never find any other way. So that's one resource that I know of that could provide you with a writers group or a book club. You know, there's probably your local newspaper that talks about, you know, the monthly calendar or the weekly calendar, and there might be a book club meeting listed in that sort of, you know, publication as well. But I think that, you know, this is a great idea for all of us to pursue that. Oh, you know, there might be an avenue here. And I wanted to reiterate again what Anaria said. And you can tell Anaria is from a gallery town. She lives in Santa Fe. But galleries are always looking for ways to bring people into their, you know, their place. In Sedona, we have the First Friday Art Walks. And of course, you know, Flagstaff and Sedona, I think they're on the same day, so you can't catch both of them. I think Jerome had been smart and decided that they would do it on a Saturday instead of the Friday. But coordinating with an event like that could also be a way of providing a focal point for a gallery other than just, oh, this is our gallery. Okay, so, you know, something to think about. If there aren't any additional questions or comments, I'm about ready. Shira.
Yeah, I've been waiting. So first of all, I'm glad to know that the open mic thing was inspiring to someone because, but you know, it's not just for poetry. That's just what I'm doing. But I just want to say, when I was in college, this isn't my comment. This is just a side comment to what I'm about to say. But when I was in college, we had, I don't know what you would call it, but there were people in creative writing who would read their short stories or something, and I've also done that. And I think you can definitely go and read, you know, novel excerpts. It obviously depends because different places are different. And speaking of which, I kind of got in trouble with the owner because I was in Virginia, which is a very conservative place, and in Arlington, there are a lot of military people, and I had no idea that you couldn't be a military person who appreciates nature. So I did something that has to do with, you know, pesticides and Monsanto and stuff, and the owner talked to the guy in charge of the open mic, and he didn't want me to do that again. So then somebody else was saying, hey, let's put some of your stuff to music and let's get kicked out. And my mom congratulated me. She said I'd hit the big time when I got in trouble. So you know, and when you do that and you get known for something, so you can have a little card and you hand that out to everybody, and even if you get kicked out and you never go back, they're like, where did that person go, and why isn't that person here anymore? And then you can tell them, you know, the story of what happened. But that was not my comment. Okay, my comment, let me try to remember now. There was something totally different that I wanted to say. Hold on a sec. I gotta get my brain together. Oh yeah. So something about your author platform and, you know, promotion and being a better author, they all fit together. When you hand something to someone or you read something to someone, you can get an immediate kind of response or reaction. You can look at their body language in their face, and it's going to be a lot more immediate and honest than what you'll get in writing. You don't get that with social media. So that's one of the main reasons why I like to hand stuff out, is because then it's really short. It doesn't take people a long time. They can read it on the spot. They don't always, but a lot of times they do. And especially if you tell them it's for something special, like this is your birthday present, they're more interested. And, you know, they'll read it on the spot and give you feedback. And that feedback is very real. A lot of people, they write books. They write book after book. They spend their whole lives writing. But when they go on their author tour, they're afraid of the crowds, you know, and they don't know how they sound and they don't know how to deal with that. So I just think it's really valuable and useful, to me anyway, to get that feedback all the time, and it could go back into your writing. And that's true no matter what method of writing you're using.
You know, I have to always congratulate Ashira on bringing up real important points. And her first point, you know, to me is critical. You can't always be everyone's friend. You can't please all the people all the time. And notoriety, you know, really is the best publicity. I mean, it truly is. You know, in all the years of mountain bike heaven, the one event that propelled me into folklore, folk hero-ness, was when we rode in the Grand Canyon during the government shutdown in '98. And, you know, we polarized the community. Of course, you know, it was interesting because, you know, you get the, you know, the politically correct people that, you know, just, you know, whatever, you know, they want everyone to fall in line. Okay, and then the rest of the, you know, the rest of the world will actually shake your hand if you create waves. And I think that one of the things most of us are afraid to do is create waves. And you know, we have an author alter ego, and that was one of the branding terms of I think it was Darnita that we started talking about. And I think that sometimes we have to step outside of that comfort zone and push people's buttons. And I think that a lot of, I see a lot of faces here, and I know that there are a lot of people there really just waiting to push buttons too. I get that. I think Ashira likes doing that. I know Anari is kind of that way. Tom Carroll won't admit it, but he's really that way as well. And of course, I'm the renegade mountain biker, so something to borrow from this, Ashira's comment is that, hey, don't be afraid to be yourself. And thank you for that, Ashira. I never have any problems because when I call on Ashira, I know that it's, she's real. She's not afraid to push the buttons, and many of us are. And we're going to end with the one author who wasn't afraid to push the buttons was oh boy, I can't even remember her name, but she wrote a book called Prison Letters. It was about her cousin who was in prison, and she and her cousin talked back and forth about the letters. She wrote the book without telling her cousin's parents that she was doing it, and they did not come across very well. When she did her first book signing, the mother of her cousin came to the table and threw the books on the ground and held a big hissy fit. Well, she knew that was going to happen. She knew all this when she wrote the book. I just am sorry that she didn't have the video camera running when that happened, because sometimes those types of things are what goes viral. This is, what goes viral are things like that, funny cat things, funny dog things, and when someone holds a hissy fit. So don't forget your video camera. Anyone else have any comments before I sign off for the day? Tom.
In line with what you're just saying, it was either Tom Pitts or Bill Murphy, when they were talking about their book, they mentioned showing up. And it came from a variety of contexts, but I don't think a day's gone by that I haven't asked myself, am I showing up? So that seemed to fit into what you were saying. It's, as authors, we have this wonderful avenue to show people who we are. At the end of the game, at the end of our days, I know one of the things that I'm going to be asking myself is, did I show up? So anyway, a comment.
Tom Carroll, you have an amazing voice. People need to hear your voice. So if you went on and did reading personally, you would captivate the audience just from your voice, because it's commanding, and yet it has a resonance in it that's very unusual and very captivating. And I would recommend that you do a lot of speaking or reading your book.
Well, thanks for saying that. Thanks for the encouragement.
My pleasure.
Okay, everyone, it's time for breakfast and then the beach for me. Dolores, you have one more comment?
Just wanted to say I just posted that list of questions for a book review to the beta group website.
Okay, sounds good. Can you cut and paste and send it to me via email too?
Sure.
Thank you. And I'll put it in the reminder that goes out to the Publish Now group early in the week so that we can all see that. Kiera, you got one comment?
I was just wondering if there's a recording going to be available for this, because I missed the first part of the thing.
Yep, Kiera, I've gotten into the habit of getting the recordings up within about an hour of the webinar. So once I turn it off and shut the meeting, it will go and do the recording, and then you'll find the recordings at YouTube under Rama on Writing.
That's okay, Rama. Thanks very much.
Okay, take care, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. It was a great webinar.
Rama, I love the idea of the book club questions, or just how to use book clubs effectively for some future event. Awesome. That would be great.
Okay. What a great idea. Take care, everyone.